It's a podcast from Steam Powered Giraffe. It's the
Bennettarium.
Hop boy, we've got a lot to talk about. It's been a crazy 2 months on the Bennettarium.
Oh boy, it's the Bennettarium. It starts right now.
Welcome to the Bennettarium, the podcast by the creators of Steam Powered Giraffe. I am one of your hosts, Isabella Bunny Bennett, and I play Rabbit in Steam Powered Giraffe, and also Gigi in Steam Powered Giraffe. And I'll pass it to my right. Left, right? Where am I?
Are we all? Well, you're on the upper left for me.
Okay, who would be next? Clockwise for me?
Let's just go Brian. Let's just say Brian.
I'm pointing to David Michael Bennett's screen with the penny.
See, you're on. No, you're pointing to Bunny on ours.
Am I? Oh, so you're over here?
Here's a story.
Yeah.
All right, well,
Hey, Brian.
my name is Brian Barber, and I'm Alice. I play Zero.
And introducing Brian Barber and
Frank, Alice's husband.
well, you only need to know who I am, I guess.
Yeah, my name is Brian Barber, and I play Zero in Steam Powered Giraffe.
My name's David Michael Bennett, and I play the Spine in the band Steam Powered Giraffe.
Hello, I'm also in Steam Powered Giraffe. I'm Chelsea Penyak, and I'm one of the Walter workers.
I'm Camille Penyak, and I am also one of the Walter workers in Steam Powered Giraffe.
Wow, that's crazy. We're all in Steam Powered Giraffe.
Wow.
That's the only thing we have in common.
And not all Steam Powered Giraffe members know each other. Don't make assumptions. Don't make assumptions.
So yeah, this is our podcast. Usually the video's usually exclusive for patrons of our Patreon, just because it's fun to do that. But last time we did a podcast, we did make it available publicly to give folks something to watch. And this one we're going to make public as well after it live streams, because we think today's going to be pretty relevant discussion. And it's not just going to be about video games or virtual reality or the band. But before we get on to that, let's talk about the band and stuff. Let's delve right into it. We have some questions from our Patreon patrons at a certain tier. And
We do.
we're going to get into those. Obviously, we're not doing any shows. We have 2 songs coming out at the end of July. We'll release those release dates soon. You'll have dates to look forward to. 2 new songs coming up at you. No shows. And now on to questions.
All right. These questions come from our Patreon patrons. First question. Cab asks, if Chelsea and Camille were robots, what would their design be? And if Zero, Rabbit, and the Spine were not robots, what species would they be?
Well, let's hear what your designs would be.
Obviously, like some sort of transformer that will turn into a bird and fly away.
How are you going to do that on stage?
That's not happening.
I don't care. I don't care.
Do you think
you're
we
going
wouldn't
to
have done that?
Giraffe?
I don't care.
You're being Tipsy, the inebriated
my
robot.
plan.
We're sorry. Camille
So
Bot
I
couldn't
know.
be here because her transformation
constantly.
isn't practical
Yeah,
for
well,
our stage show.
too bad. Your loss. That's what it is.
Fine,
my
then I get to turn into an airplane at will.
And Chelsea.
I have not given this any thought ever.
Well, Camille's
I
obviously
don't
been
have
playing
a
it
good,
since day
funny
one.
answer. I let Camille read the questions beforehand. She answers for both of us.
I had about 5 minutes, but I already knew.
What species would you
So
your
that's
heart, you
so
know.
that's your commentary, huh? That's your critique on our band is that we don't transform.
Limitations.
Yeah.
What was that one you did, like a bit once where you all, like, you're a transformer, you all like combined to create a
Yeah,
mecha?
we did a bit in Bebop Park and we brought it back a few
It was a
Yeah.
private bit. We don't talk about it.
It was an airplane.
It was a
We
better
always transformed
time.
to an airplane.
Were you all fused
When we can afford private jets.
What species would you be?
And
No,
then
I think
so
what species?
What's the
I
question?
think Chelsea would be Boggles, the robot that just looks at everything and asks why. Took me like 5 minutes to think of that.
Why?
There you go. You could use that.
Wait, what was the question for Brian and I?
If you were a human,
Zero-
what
all of
species
you,
would you be?
Oh, I was
If
like
Zero, Rabbit, and the Spine were not robots, what species would they
I was like,
be?
why isn't Bunny included in this?
Would they be humans? I guess.
I
guess-
Yeah, you know?
Is the Minotaur a species?
I'm not technically a rabbit at all. Like she has like ear-like things that come out of her. But
Is it funnier if we just say human? Or is that disappointing?
I mean, if you want an animal, I guess it
Boring.
makes sense that I would be a aardvark.
I'd be okay. Giraffe. Giraffe makes sense.
Spine as a giraffe. I think you
can
would be that husky dog that everyone keeps linking to me, saying, "Look, it's Spine as a dog."
What?
I don't like dogs.
Yep, he's a dog. All right, that's clear. Canon, Spine's a dog.
Clear as crystal. That is. Went to the glass menagerie. They said that fact was a lot more see-through than everything they sold there.
Oh, all right. Wait, a rabbit, a dog, and a what can I be?
Brian,
some sort of beetle. Can I be some
you don't
sort
get
of
to ask. You just have to let us know. You don't get to ask.
I'm some sort of beetle. That's what I am. Some sort of beetle.
A beetle?
I can
Like a
fly,
rhinoceros
and
beetle,
I'm
those are pretty
also
sweet.
I'm really obnoxious as well. That's what I've chosen.
There you go.
I've chosen to be so big, but like not quite big enough, so you can hear and see me coming, but you can't swat me.
Sure, it would be nice if that beetle spun the Earth so it could be in the sun again, but it's just keeps doing that. It's not quite big enough to move the Earth anymore. So
It's graceful and yet clumsy. Like there's lots of things about a beetle that.
Here's your fan art prompt: is drawing Zero as a beetle.
trying to push the world.
And by a beetle,
Wait,
I mean
draw all of us.
John
fact, draw all
Paul
of us.
Ringo.
Aardvark rabbit, giraffe spine. Mine's not very creative now in hindsight.
I want a beetle with a polka and a suit jacket, though.
Do you all want to switch up, or
Challenge.
just have me read these?
You're doing a good job.
Yeah, you.
So great.
All right, our next question.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm
this
not
is
used to
from-
smiling this much. Ah, it hurts.
I know. This question's from Dell. What were some of the inspirations behind each of the band's characters, i.e., existing characters, celebrities, personal experiences, or just something you thought would be fun?
Oh,
That's a good
so
question.
like where did our I guess for Bunny and I, since we've been since the get-go, we kind of played off of kind of the tropes and comfortabilities that we
Totally.
had through our improv.
I was recently asked a couple times recently, and like Rabbit, I've thought about it, and I know exactly where it comes from. It comes from Bugs Bunny mostly, and then from that it's like Danny Elfman's in there, like even like Rosie the Robot, like, and then there Harley Quinn's in there. Like there's a lot of
Rosie the
there's a
Robot,
lot of
I never
inspirations
thought
I
of.
realized that Rabbit has drawn from over the years.
And I think that's kind of like, when you're putting together like a group act, like, you want to have those dynamics. And we definitely play ours up, so it's not like the Spine's always a serious person, but
But
like,
do you have
that's
any like
kinda what it is.
specific things that inspired you,
I
like
mean,
for the voice or
you
anything?
can just
that's
look at-
just
I thi-
yours?
Well, yeah, it's just a voice that I do.
I guess
So
Orson Welles.
I think that's where it comes there.
That's kind of.
But
the
it's more like
tonality.
the thought about it in the sense of like, like comedy duos or something.
Yeah.
Like there's always the straight man. I mean that as in setting up jokes and stuff. But
honestly, the Spine's
like the Three
voice-
Stooges or something like that, or
Totally.
or the Odd Couple and stuff like that. I mean, there's always someone who's a little too serious or whatever. But when you look at our act as it's evolved, like even our characters have changed quite a bit. Like I think the Spine's become more than just
Sure.
a used car salesman. or
Well, I think
something.
you expect him to be kind of rigid and stoic, and that voice obviously has a lot of power, and like so it's nice to have that because you do kind of establish a lot, when you even just standing there with the guitar,
But yeah, also like there's that like sense of dry humor with that that Leslie Nielsen kind of delivery with the Spine. Of,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
He can be
That's a good
he can be the
explanation.
straight man, but also tell you the most ridiculous thing, and like
Exactly.
that is very funny in itself.
Yeah.
What
So
about
Leslie Nielsen,
you,
obviously.
Brian? You since you of course you came into the act with like stuff already established, so trying to
For
find
sure.
a place to fit in there.
Yeah, I mean, I just just doing stage enough to observe your characters and say, all right, well, where do I fit in there? And I think Zero's biggest thing is delight. I think that's the easiest thing. It's never really it's not his brains, it's not his bras, it's just delight in whatever it might be, and that's an easy thing to follow. and that helps. It helps whatever situation it is. If you're saying something ridiculous to me in a serious moment, I'm immediately going to say, yes, that's amazing. Like how can I build on that with some sort of delight, some sort of joy, and some sort of wonder, childlike wonder, I guess.
Yeah.
We had that with Sam too. It was kind of childlike, but in a different, more weird. You know what I mean?
It wasn't as innocent.
It wasn't as innocent. It was very much like, oh, here's this childlike thing, but he obviously knows more than he's leading on because it's very creepy and kind of dark a little bit. I think that's just Sam in general, but like that's and I feel like that is kind of the third place in this kind of like the dynamic which is Bunny and I. But...
Because you need somebody who's able to go along no matter what, no matter what what comes out. If it's wacky dance, or some wacky like movements that we're doing, or whether it's the straight bit, like somebody who can.
It wouldn't work if we had another person that was like spine or something that would just shut down. Like, can you imagine if we had two people like
it would be like
that were just like disinterested?
Well, to be fair, I think that archetype is like pretty obvious, especially when we started, because we had Aaron, you, and John, and you all had different varying degrees of like wacky, I would say.
Yeah.
And so it was just obvious, like, well, I'm gonna be this one, and you know what? We all did improv together, so we kind of knew, like, that's just where we
had like
felt
a comfort
comfortable
zone,
going.
Totally. Yeah.
So it's definitely playing off of each other.
Well, you were also like the lead musician too, so it made a lot of sense,
Yeah, I think
like while you were handling all the music and stuff, I would start, barking and trying to get people ready, and then I'd start stringing together like narratives, and while you were tuning and stuff. Woo. I remember that, and then and it just kind of came naturally, because like then Aaron like with upgrades, I can't remember. I mean, she was definitely inspired by like Shields and Yarnell. Like early on, I mean, she didn't have as much time to develop the character, but I mean, some of the famous bits, like her wanting to be a princess, or being infatuated with the spine, which in retrospect doesn't really work because they're siblings.
Well, we even when Aaron was a part of it, we kind of toned that down eventually, because there's so much that comes up from improv and doing the.
What it comes from
is Bobo Park that sometimes you have to like go back and say, yeah, we keep doing this bit, but that's probably weird.
Yeah, I know we tested out some things, and we also we were pulling from like old vaudeville type bits and stuff to begin with, and it makes sense. Oh, you have a male and a female character. Oh, the girl's gonna be.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's kind of just done to death.
It's weird, but it's also it does kind of make sense in the aspect of like they're not humans, so there is like there can be a misunderstanding of what love is or what that actually is. There can be innocence,
sure,
but unfortunately in this world, it's like we kind of got to be very clear on where it stands and where it doesn't.
Especially now, it'd be like, are those robots?
Yeah,
brother and sister.
Yeah, hold up here.
Well, none of those were planned or anything. All that just came naturally, as with the
Sure.
It's you find every actor or whatever is finding a comfortable place to kind of insert improv stuff. But yeah, cool.
Next question.
We touched on that.
Next question's from Finn. Lots of character questions. Sorry, but I've been wondering for a little while. Were the V Bisile logs a one-time thing, or were there more plans for that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was cool. I think that was at a time we were kind of playing around with stuff, and it worked, and I liked that idea. But I think honestly, what does like sort of additional content for Steam Powered Giraffe look like to like expand on the lore, and where do we want to put that? What do we want to put our energy levels? Yeah, I think those things were kind of experimental, and like that'll all, those characters are in the comics and stuff, which we just haven't gotten to that point yet. So it's kind of like, just what focus do we want to put on? And I think we chose to do like more comics, and then we started doing the radio adventures not soon, like a year or so later. So
yeah,
pretty happy with that additional content. You know what I mean? Like, so why do I want to make the effort to do more of that? But
this is random, but I think the very first time we used the updated Walter Robotics logo was in that that Psylog video.
Yeah, I think it was I mean, for me, I guess it was like a tone piece to start, like what it was the tone of the lore in the comics and stuff. So I mean, it's still like relevant, I guess, but
it's definitely a deep cut now.
I mean, it's in there. If you find it, it's nice because like that's like a lore bit like that will be discussed in like the comics. But
that video is on YouTube.
Yeah, you can find it in one of those. I think it's on. Other
I think
fun
is there
stuff or
like
something
two?
places.
There's like two of them. They're kind of
Maybe,
embarrassing,
yeah.
but at least I was trying stuff out.
Yeah. All right. Next question is from Gray. For each of you, what is your favorite quality of life thing you've discovered throughout the years in the band that makes your life easier, i.e., a new piece of tech, a certain piece of costume, etc.?
Yeah, there's tons of technology for the live show that makes our jobs easier. I would say like wireless transmitters and receivers are like in-ear monitors, all that, which has been around for a while, but they're accessible and affordable enough for a band like us to use. Yeah, I mean, hands down, makes it so much easier than. There's just so much we couldn't do tech-wise in previous decades, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, costume-wise, for me and Camille, changing our Walter Worker
That's
costumes.
gonna be my answer.
Yeah. New Walter Worker dresses. When we started, we had the ones with the poofy sleeves, which didn't allow us to raise our arms past our armpits.
Yeah.
And then when we started choreographing more dances, we got new costumes made. So that was like, in terms of costume, for us, it was mobility of the arms.
The designs originally, because our previous Walter Workers weren't dancing in that respect.
They were pretty much just selling merchandise when they started, right?
Yeah, they
From my
did some
understanding?
stuff on stage, you know, some of the simple Walter Worker bits from the
Yeah.
early days, but like it made sense to update them.
Yeah, it was just a gradual, like, obviously at a
Yeah.
certain point. We
Honestly, it
realized
makes
we
more
needed
sense
an upgrade.
anyways. Like it looks more like a utility. Like it looks pretty, but it looks
Yeah.
like you could actually do some work in those and get them
Yeah,
like
yeah.
And because of the way the lapel
Yeah.
is, it would make sense that, you know, that you would use that in like mechanic, because you could just and then you could shed it
Yeah.
and throw an oily garment in the washer. So like I think it looks really good. It looks like something you'd like
I love them.
it looks like maybe they don't look like that at the Waltz. Maybe they have like a more
Maybe no one wants to
utilitarian-
do.
What I'm saying is like maybe they have more
pants or something.
utilitarian look for
Well,
when
yeah.
they're inside behind closed doors, but on stage, because they're supposed to look pretty, it looks like something that was made.
Yeah.
In the event that you need to fix something, they are practical, but
That,
you know,
I was gonna say
they're
we've
like See's
also,
candy workers. outfits.
Yeah, yeah.
They look a little.
But I'm a fan, and like obviously it's been so long. We have had conversations. I remember having conversations with you guys about like, oh, do you want to update the costumes and wear pants instead? Like, you know, there were
Yeah.
conversations about like relevance and the look, and like, is this sexist to have you? And you know, like obviously we like consider all options, but like when it comes down to it, like Camille and I obviously come from ballet, and you know we wore tutus on stage, like we are comfortable in dresses, like it doesn't bother us, and like honestly, like we like the look, we like the contrast between our visuals on stage and the robots. Like that's why we've never changed. That's
good.
why we're still wearing the dresses, because we're comfortable in them. And for dancing,
It also
can't wear pants.
No.
So,
Totally.
yeah.
It also kind of makes the aesthetic kind of work, because it's kind of a vintage,
Yeah.
and you could imagine that. Oh
vintage.
yeah, like
Yeah.
the company's just they're playing with
Right.
that aesthetic. So that's
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
you plus you guys are
it's
supposed
a
to be these
stage
kind of
show.
weird
It doesn't have to
pale-faced
be realistic.
irradiated people that are kind of mysterious.
Yeah.
So like
I mean, I just remember
That
having
also
that
adds to the
conversation of
mystique.
like, if anyone out there, you know, wants to say like this is outdated or something, it's like, well, it was our choice to keep the dresses too.
To keep things moving, and further on the question, is there any piece of technology, Brian and Bunny, that helps? Paraphrasing the question, basically.
No.
Quality of life?
I think the eyeshadow. If I figured the eyeshadow makeup was the best thing that I could possibly think of. So makeup didn't get my eye.
Same with the
Yeah.
Waltz Workers, like the costume changes that I made make it so I can perform better and I can roll around on the ground and do funny stuff, you know.
They said more than just technology, right? They said
technology and costumes.
oh, costumes.
Yeah.
Okay, I missed that part of the question.
That's why we talked about that.
I was like, what? I thought we were talking about technology.
No, it
Okay.
was both.
I
Live.
missed it.
But there's so many. Like, I mean, you could say the step tuners are really great because we can step
Yeah.
them.
Well,
And
or,
tune.
or our remote rehearsal stuff, all the software and
Yeah.
stuff that we're able to have access to. Like,
Yeah, we should keep moving. Sorry. Like I could go on for hours about all this.
No,
stuff.
it's okay. Yeah, I mean they asked about technology and costumes, and that was a big one for us. But anyway, next question is from Joe. If it's okay, this is a two-parter for you all. What was it like working on Steamworld Heist? And if you could have your likeness and music featured in any game, past, present, or future, what game would you like to be in?
That's a tough one. It was definitely a learning curve, and it's one of those. We've worked with 2 video game companies now, and they've been vastly different in how they approach, and that could be due to us being independent artists and self-published, and Image and Form being with Steamworld Heist being kind of indie as well.
It was a good experience, I think. Good.
Yeah, and compared to when we worked with Gearbox, which is a little more corporate-y, I suppose is the right word to use. So definitely different environments. But it was cool experiences nonetheless.
I think we're coming up on the thing where some of the stuff we created for them is reverting back to us. Is that right? Or no?
I don't know what that means.
Oh, some of the Gearbox stuff. Remember we signed contracts and stuff, so, like all
10
the
years.
pitches. 10 years. Oh, I thought it was 5 for some reason. I'm like, okay, never mind.
So that would be 2026.
One day, and 10 years from now, there'll be a patron upload or something of like.
And we'll just share all our pitches we were able to. But
anyways,
we signed NDAs, so they own all that for.
That was great. I don't know about what video game I'd want to be in. Like, I'm trying to think like what would make the most sense. But like realistically, like if any indie games want to use us, like we could totally do like a collab.
What about like in Grand Theft Auto? Like you go to like a place where like the act place. Like you can find.
That'd be great. I would be in Fortnite. I don't care. Like who cares? I just want to see us.
If it was relevant, it's one of those like I have tons of favorite games, but even I have a hard time figuring out like how would Steam-powered Giraffe fit into this. You know what I mean?
What about like old timey in Red Dead Redemption? We're just like the old timey band in the saloon.
It's a weird thing. Like I don't think we're gonna have the popularity draw of like someone's gonna get us because we're recognizable. It would be one of those like they can actually make a song that would sound like that, and that's pretty much that's pretty.
Steamworld Heist, the MMO. I don't. Can we be?
There's probably not too many games that would want to make use of us for something outside of what we do in our albums currently. Steamworld Heist, I think, is definitely like a unique opportunity.
What about like in a Kingdom Hearts type? You get integrated in the Disney world, and you get like not the new kingdom, like the old kingdom. When the kingdom was. How about the king?
we go visit. We just need our own video game, basically.
There we go.
Where we can travel around the cowboys days.
Spine, Rabbit, and Zero as your party members. Mm-hmm. Now I'm just imagining a Kingdom Hearts with Steam-powered Giraffe.
But Gigi is like the OP character, and like everyone's just like no, you can't do Gigi builds. Those are dumb. It's like Gigi's like the best character.
All right, next question. I'm gonna jump around a little bit here.
Or what if Gigi is the only character? Sorry, go ahead. It's just like all different Gigis, and it's like the whole game is just nothing but Gigis.
Well, see, that's the problem. We'll never have a game because we'll always want to make it a joke, and then it actually will be. It'll be impossible to market.
Spine's like the bartender in like one thing, and you think he's gonna step out beside the bar to join your party, and he's like, "No, I should sit down." Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, we already did that one. I'm gonna jump around a little bit because I got a good one for last. This one comes from Kindy. Silly lore question: what would happen if Bebop got corrupted / malfunctioned like the bots?
I don't know. In one piece of art, he's like giant, so like that would be terrifying. Like, does he actually have a body? Like, he has a huge body.
Or is he only digital? I like the idea that he's a giant face, like the musical. Wizard
like
of Oz,
at one point they turned him into like or tried to play around with him having a body, but he's like he's master control or
yeah, MCP.
He'd probably just have some weird blue screen of death or something, and that would
I kind of feel like that art maybe he made it. That would be kind of creepy, where he's like he junked together a bunch of scrap parts to create a body for himself. That'd be kind of cool.
Oh, that'd be cool. I don't know, like some sort of robot has.
You know what? Like when Ultron comes out in Age of
Ultron, there we go.
Like that. Yeah. Well, you'll be voiced by James Spader or whatever his name is too.
I think when we think of Bebop and Courtney, we think about them in more of an operating sense. Like Courtney's definitely like an operating system compared to, and Bebop is kind of similar. It's just Courtney's kind of funny operating system.
There's no telling how many other robots though might be in Walter Manor. So I think they're integral into like running running Steam Powered Giraffe. But
I mean, those robots came about just because it was like they fit the bill for the live show over time. You know, like we like the serious Bebop contrasted with the robots, and then Courtney is kind of like, well, Courtney kind of works because Bebop exists.
It would be cool if there was like some pointless technology in the manner like that Bebop could like be. There's like this hologram station, but just a bunch of like ping pong balls that get suspended. And so like his whole face is made out of like ping pong balls or something. It's like this ridiculous, like overly complicated way of
basically
making a hologram work.
Bebop is the spine and Courtney is Rabbit. That's basically what.
Or it's like this giant machine that takes up like a warehouse, and the hologram appears in this tiny box.
Yeah, that'd be pretty funny.
And it looks so good, but it takes like this giant warehouse to make.
So now we need a robot that's basically like Zero's version. You know what I mean? Because that's the kind of comedic thing that's happening with Bebop
Like a
and
third
Courtney.
AI robot.
Oh,
That's basically the Zero version.
I don't know. I don't know that you don't want to integrate that in your show.
Well, you know, because Bebop's kind of doing the spine thing, and Courtney's kind of doing the rabbit thing, like as far as archetype.
Oh, I see. Associate me with the annoying characters. Gigi and Courtney. Oh.
I mean, and Gigi's a rabbit too, but
Gigi is basically rabbit.
but it's
annoying.
It's like more annoying. It's like even in the annoying robots, or
Okay,
I would say
now
as
that
a robot.
my feelings are irreparably
Let's
hurt.
dig into that more.
Next question.
All right, next question.
I don't want to get hate mail for pointing out exactly
We all
what
think
happens
Gigi
on
is
stage.
annoying. We all think Gigi and Courtney are annoying.
This question's from Caterpillar Girl. One for Bunny. I'm just wondering about Rabbit's predilection for driving cars into the ocean or just crashing cars in general. Off the top of my head, she does an overdrive. I love it. Granted, you each take turns at that one, and I'll rest with you. I
don't think she knows how to drive. I think it's the thing, huh?
I mean, the joke writes itself. It's probably like, you know, like we get in the car and then it doesn't go anywhere. It's like, you're gonna drive us there, and like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like the jokes.
I don't have a license. I'm not a person.
And/or it's just like a consistent like car crash that you walk away unscathed from. Like it's always just like
Every time we
Rabbit,
arrive
the
somewhere, it's
podcast.
just this horrible car crash.
and you just walk out like, wow, we made it.
You see that guy? He tried to cut me off.
Next question's from Kelsey. How do you guys keep your spirits up in times like these? Is there anything specific that you know you can do to cheer yourself up? To cheer up.
Laughter, video games, anything helps. Put on.
It's hard to
movie.
be specific about that kind of stuff because you kind of have to feel out what you're feeling at the time, right?
The other night, I watched Oliver and Company, and I was like, "Oh, this is a little sweet, little cute little movie."
You're like the second person who said they watched
It's
that.
not. And then I remembered. Oh yeah, that it has
I
like
know
that
that
one
movie.
good song, and all the others you just forget.
Yeah.
Should I worry? Why
The one where
should
he's,
I
like, walking up,
care? It's basically the dog's just Billy Joel, and
Yeah.
the cat.
Okay, I think we're back.
Okay, we back. We went. Are we live?
Give it a few
Yeah.
seconds just to make sure.
Why should I worry?
Back
Why
into
should
it.
I care?
I love that movie.
You were saying there's a couple that you've been.
Oh,
wanting
it's
to
just like
watch?
ever since Disney Plus went up, I'm like, I want to watch all of like the old like movies that I used to like that aren't like the well known. Like I want to watch like Rescuers Down Under, and
Those are my favorites.
like which is
both
like my
those.
favorite out of the
Yeah.
two.
The giant eagle.
Giant
that the kid
Eagle.
rides.
The
Yeah,
lizard who likes to eat eggs.
Joanna.
Yeah. Joanna.
She's like breaking her teeth.
I love it.
Oh, I love Joanna. Okay, we've got 4 more questions. This is from
Wait,
Hope.
Bunny's not-
Oh, sorry.
Oh, she went to go
I'll
get
wait.
her coffee at the door.
Yeah.
Her coffee.
Starbucks delivery.
I'll cut it somewhere here.
Okay.
Right here, and we're back.
So yeah, if that happens again, I just have to restart
Go.
everything. It's too complicated. I mean, I'm sure it's because of the recent Windows update, because Windows Media Player and then Encoder is all completely screwed up on both my computers. I don't know why. I mean, obviously it was a Windows update, but
Yeah.
I've never had our audio driver crash in how many years have we been using this computer and everything else? Like, it wasn't even the audio interface itself, so there's nothing to do other than just restart.
I blame the gremlins.
The only other thing is It's just that the Bennettarium gets really complicated just with how many programs I have to have open. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Compared
yeah.
to, even the remote rehearsal is like slightly less complicated.
Are we live?
Yeah, we're live now. So now this has been not enough time. The chat's getting our voices, so I think we can go on to the next question.
Okay.
Right.
Next question is from Hope. Brian, I noticed that you're collecting some plants. How many do you have now? Can you give us a little plant tour?
And what are the names?
I am not collecting plants. My partner collects plants for sure, but so there's a lot of plants in our house. But I personally do not collect plants. I have a garden at my mom's house that I go to like tend to every once in a while, but I try not to. It's a living thing, and that's a big responsibility. You should know that, y'all. But yeah, my mom's we got a bunch of indoor plants, some good, just nothing that's too complicated. And then we got a bunch of trees at my mom's house: avocado trees, peach tree, orange tree, tomatoes. We got peppers. We got cucumber salad. What did you do? We got all that stuff.
All
So
the good
pomegranates.
stuff.
So all that kind of stuff I take care of. Yeah. If y'all want some pomegranates,
Nice.
I will hook
Heck
you up
yeah.
because
Yes.
they're a difficult fruit to like.
Oh, yeah.
You got to collect them before the birds get them. So birds love them. They love them. But yeah.
All right.
Maybe-
Next question? Yeah?
One day.
Maybe what?
Maybe what?
I'll say one day I'll have her come in and explain the plants that are.
Oh,
here,
yeah,
but
yeah.
There you go.
Plant
I don't
tour.
know what they are. As a matter of fact, her friend who gave her the plants was just here, but I think they just left.
Oh,
She'd probably be stoked that you asked that question.
yeah.
No.
Next question from Eris. For all of you, what's the one non-SPG song you wish you had written?
All the ones that do a lot of money. Creatively though, it's one of those like I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's-
like,
Just something that
question.
makes you like super happy, like Mr. Blue Sky or Don't Stop Me Now, something like that. Like
anything you
or
love
or
is
like
pretty good.
shout, like something that's just like that makes you undeniably feel good. Like no matter what situation it is, you
What
put
if
it on,
you wrote the
everyone
happy
goes,
birthday song? Would you be rich?
"Happy birthday!" Oh, no money.
Yeah. Well, the two old ladies owned it for forever before a few decades ago, and before it came public domain, and they made that's how they made a lot of money off of that.
Did they?
Just
Because
when
every
anytime it was-
movie I remember watching was always like, "Today is your birthday, and
Yeah.
it's time
For
to
he's
eat
a jolly good
cake."
fella.
Yeah.
No, I mean
Do you
there's
think-
movies that use it, but they paid.
I think
and
that's how they got their money.
It's like
is
from the
like,
from like the 80s to like a couple years ago. It's just all these weird birthday songs
Yeah,
that nobody
that's what I
ever
remember
sings.
as a kid.
Do you think that people freaked out the first time they heard that? Like, it's your birthday? Have I got a song for you? Dun, 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 dun. Happy birthday. Like,
It was probably really cool. Like it felt like celebratory. I don't know. There's probably some dark past to the birthday song that we don't know about.
sure.
The pirate treasure was
Look,
was
you
murdered for.
Don't look into the second verse of Happy Birthday. It's nothing but it's misogynist. It's
A little problematic by today's age, where people they didn't have cake back then. It's human sacrifices.
next question.
All right, next. This is a second question from Caterpillar Girl. Last of Us 2. Thoughts and impressions.
I haven't finished it. I have nothing. I think we should move on, and because I don't want any spoilers.
Yeah.
But I did
Yeah.
obviously get spoiled
We can
for
talk
myself.
about it later.
But I'm not a super big fan, so it's okay that I kind of know a little bit of the spoilers from the leaks and
I
stuff.
haven't played,
but I'm
haven't
playing
played
it
any of them. But let's move on because
For sure.
yeah.
All right. And our last question is from Zephyr. For all of you, how are you doing? Are you having a good day so far?
Anytime I get to see these guys, good day.
For sure. So far, so
That
good.
rounds out our questions.
Well-
Thank you, Patreons.
Thank you for asking those.
Yeah,
I'm
you
sure
guys are great.
We can talk about Last of Us and stuff like that in the future, but yeah, I don't think any of us have played or finished it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
It's been a moment. Thanks for the questions, guys. You guys are wonderful. Thanks for your support. Just in updates, let's start talking about what we're working on in Steam Powered Giraffe. What we've been doing individually. What are we currently working on in Steam Powered Giraffe? You can be as vague as you need to be.
we're working on our next two songs, as well as finishing up the album. Of course, we have until the end of the year. Basically, we don't have an exact date for that release, but we're still working on acoustic songs. for every single song that's on the album, as
Yeah.
well as the remaining songs that are on the album. So we have 2 new songs coming out in late July, which we'll announce. So that's pretty much what I
heard one of the
doing.
songs. Seems pretty done. It sounds pretty great. I'm not gonna say what it is, but like, work's going really well. David's been working real hard.
Both are pretty much done. But
Yeah.
I mean, we still have time to tweak stuff if we need to. But yeah, we're moving on to some acoustic stuff probably this week.
We're
the rest of
definitely
this
working on all that. So you'll have new music, very shortly.
Yeah.
I'm still working on Radio Adventures. That's what I was gonna say. There's like 20 minutes left of it, so it's like it's just figuring out how to piece it together to make it, a story. But I do have extra pieces I need you guys to record, so I'm writing them all down. And I'm gonna send them to you, and if you could just give me like 2 or 3 takes of each, you don't even have to listen to the. Anyways, yeah. So I'm working on that. If you guys haven't seen it, there's an animatic on Patreon. That was just sort of a fun way to show the spirit and the potential of the Radio Adventures. That was really fun. It only did like 5 minutes of it, but go check it out on Patreon. What else have we've been working on? What about from an individual standpoint?
The Steam Hard Drive album. And the business stuff, the taxes, all that stuff. It's
Taxes, yeah.
Luckily for me,
I
I've
gotta do my taxes.
kept real busy with the Steam Hard Drive work, which I'm grateful for. But I also know that most of that work is like work that only I'm gonna be able to get to do. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like it
work.
doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help anyone else to stay busy in that sense.
I mean, so we've been, some of us have actually returned to the workforce now. So you want to talk about that? I think that's a good segue into everything that's going on in the world.
Totally. Yeah, they got me working a little bit at the zoo. The zoo's kind of reopened, and luckily I'm on a bus, just kind of driving around and waving at people and
You
yelling and
bus
saying,
tourist. Okay.
There's nobody on the bus. There's a couple puppets on the bus, so
Puppets.
they're trying, right? Puppets. So they're doing their best to like keep things.
So the puppets just move by themselves.
Yeah, well, no, there's people on the puppets, but there's 3 people on the bottom floor. There's 2 people up top, or 3 people up top as well. So, we're all super spaced out, and we all have to wear masks the whole time, and that's all good. It's a little uncomfortable, definitely, being in the space with so many public people, but
Yeah.
it is what it is for the time being, and as long as I kind of feel like they keep up with those protocols, I feel all right going there. But definitely not something I'm like, yes, I need this forever. And if it's like I'm not gonna sacrifice something just because, whatever it is. But things are gonna reopen slowly, and it's gonna be awkward getting back into it. But
For sure.
I don't see any other way around it at the time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been back to work also, and kind of the same deal as. Luckily, I'm fortunate enough to work somewhere where there is like a whole task force, designated to the pandemic and how the workplace operates with that involved. And luckily, it's like everything was put in place before I went back to work, and so I feel really safe when I'm there. But it's important to lay down these ground rules for a state and lots of people who for some reason think that it's over and it's not. So you have to create a new normal and just ease people into that, and so that they know what to expect.
I mean, obviously I see it from my life of already being inside and pretty much only going outside for like hiking. So that's the only thing I'm missing. But I see it from the point of view of like, well, there's a certain, how else do you say it? It's a certain age of people, I suppose. And I don't quite understand that. I don't quite understand
it's
like
weird.
Why do people our generation kind of understand why it's important, and everyone else most other people aren't taking it seriously.
Is it that there's just some people that are just refuse to acknowledge that this is the way the world is, or like they're just so comfortable in their.
Yeah, I think it's a comfort thing.
It's
Like
also-
they've never
They don't want
had
they want things to change, and they're like,
answer to anything before, and they
Yeah.
can't handle it. They
It
can't
also
handle any
requires
amount.
like just your basic empathy and this isn't always about you. It's about the safety of everyone else around you.
People forget that the masks are
yeah.
to protect people from you,
Right.
not
Yeah.
the other way
Which is
around.
so because like I wear one out and I don't have it for a second in my mind thinking that I'm not going to catch it because I have a mask on. I'm like I see so many people even in our apartment complex like just without it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
well, are they following the guidelines to the bare minimum? Because that's what it feels like. It's like there's people with masks, but there's way more people without masks, and I'm just like, I'm out there doing the one thing I have to do outside, checking the mail or starting my car so the battery doesn't die or whatever, and there's just people walking by me without masks, and I'm like, cool, so if I have something and I'm asymptomatic, you're not going to get it, but then I'm going to get it, and it's just one of those, it's so frustrating because it's like,
I also like I don't know. I mean, who can say if this happened 5-6 years ago, this pandemic, if more people would have taken it more seriously? Because I feel like, a lot of the stubborn people who are like, no, it's my right, I don't have to wear a mask. So much of that collective mentality, everything these days is political when it shouldn't be. You know what I mean?
I don't know, because
why is wearing a mask to protect yourself against a virus political?
everyone has excuses on when it's okay too. Like I'm sure there's people here that wear masks to their job and stuff, but I see people getting out of their cars without masks, and I'm like, just because you're outside, you're still like 12 feet from me when you're arriving, and you're gonna get closer to me. It's like, even if I wanted to, it's like avoiding people. It's impossible.
what the H1N1 virus from 1918, which was known as a Spanish flu, but that's a little misleading. It's like that's like the closest thing I think we have, like as far as like a pandemic, and like or we could like
It's
go
like a
back and
once in a
actually
century
like
thing.
how did people react in the where
Yeah,
but it's like there's not a lot of modern examples that we can like pick and pull through, especially in America. So it's like
even back then, I remember reading an article. I want to say it was somewhere in San Diego County, but it was probably in California. Just they had like an old newspaper from that company who was putting out the newspaper at the time, and they're like, "Here's what people thought about masks back then," and there was like a form back in when that was happening, when that flu was going around, and they were like, no one took it seriously, and of course, in hindsight, I guess the masks really didn't do much anyways, because just it was not like today, but.
I mean,
wouldn't have the same medical ideas, but that people would be like, I gotta have my smokes, and that's literally they have a quote from the guy in the newspaper, like saying, I gotta have my smokes, and I'm not gonna wear a mask. How am I supposed to wear? And it's just like, and you see there's even pictures of people with the mask during the time, and they'd have them on, and they'd be like, just off, exactly like you'd think that they're so like it was just yesterday,
like nothing's changed.
and a bunch of people died.
Yeah, for sure.
I not to say that they actually worked back then or anything. I'm just saying, like, I think people have always been stubborn, but like this day and age, there's all these great reasons to not be, and to actually like listen, and like hopefully more people do that. But it's like I don't who's to say how many people are wearing masks, and like in California you have to basically, but there are exceptions, so it's kind of like. You can kind of
county to county there's also exceptions.
Yeah,
it's like everyone has a different rule, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And
No,
there's
there's no direction. If there's no direction, then how can people follow it? And the other thing is we're at a point in our humanity where I feel like every time there's a call to action to help us all as a species or all as a people, it immediately turns into I don't want to.
Yeah.
This is this and when.
How does this benefit me? This
and
doesn't
why
affect
should
me. Why should I care?
Why should I if they're not? Or why should I if this person isn't going to do that? And well, I mean, at some point we got to start thinking, all right, well, what about this person? How can I help this person next to me? And if putting on a mask for 2 seconds and maybe feeling a little bit uncomfortable might save someone's life, and you choose not to do that, then look at yourself as a human being. Like, who is that who you want to be? Is that who you want to be in society? Is like, I don't want to because it makes me slightly uncomfortable. Like, that's ridiculous. I'm slightly uncomfortable, so I don't want to help this other person who's might lose their life.
It's not even that uncomfortable. If you have medical conditions or whatever, there are exceptions. I understand, but it's not that uncomfortable. Like, I have to take off my glasses and stuff, but like
it hurts my ears like no one's business. I don't know why. Bunny and I got ears that just hurt when the
oh no, I
strings
can't like the strings don't fit over my ears. I have like these tiny little like ears that don't work.
But like I don't There's
I
no
still
not
do
wearing
it.
a mask. It's not a thing. It's not a.
It doesn't
It
make
was so
sense.
weird because I felt even people our age were kind of getting okay with it after like earlier this month, and I was just like, and then the next day it was like, they had to issue the whole.
If you're going out, you got to be careful. I mean, I think it's important to just say that, like we're only saying this stuff because collectively we got to be better. Like we're combating a pandemic, and like every little bit helps. Every person needs to do their part.
Nobody wants to be a wet blanket in the sense of like, I'm gonna tell you to wear your mask, or like I need to speak up on this. But like right now, that's what needs to happen. And it needs to come from a forceful way of like, I get it. You have like whatever your thing might be, but this is what it is. Like, it's not what you think it might be. This is what it is. So let's make sure that we all do it, and then this will be done. Like, the more people who drag their feet on it, the longer it's going to drag out. So why are we even arguing? Why are we arguing with these people who have no stand in the game besides I'm selfish and I want this? Like, that's not an argument anymore.
And
that
they're
we
getting
should
like
have to
media
listen
attention
to.
and stuff, and you
of
see
course.
these videos of these people just like going up to their like state board meetings and stuff, and it's like, I don't know what they call them, but like they're just atrocious. It's like,
well, it's people who have never had to fight for their actual rights, and now that somebody's putting a singular stop in front of their faces, they say, "Well, what about my right to think for myself and to be free," or whatever that might be. But it's like this is not. Nobody is stomping on your right to do anything. Somebody is asking you a favor. Somebody is asking you to help another human being, and if you want to argue against that, then go ahead. But like you gotta look at yourself at that point and say, is that how you want to continue on in this world? Like, all right, cool.
Totally.
Even in the best case scenario, which we don't have anywhere close to. Obviously the government needs to stop like squelching the CDC and all that shit. Shit. I'm just gonna say it because it's fine. Even then, there would still be the outliers who were like, I don't want this. But so many more people are not those people who are just not doing it because, like, oh, you only need to do it when you're indoors and stuff like that. I'm like, I guess because that's what the guidelines say, but they're so lax because it's like, how much can they get away with? And what is... It's just so embarrassing.
It brings up because, like, people bring up my rights being infringed upon, and it just... And then you look at what else is happening in the world, and it's like,
the whole masks, the mask thing. The people that don't want to wear the masks and say it's their right to go out and not wear a mask, and all that. Like, I'm seeing a lot of hypocrisy and selfishness from the people who don't want to wear masks because they're the same people who are turning around and telling protesters to stay inside, and
And this, it's not a. There's not too many people that we interact with and stuff feel any differently than we do, but it's, I mean, just like anyone else, we see this stuff on the news. We can look outside.
We don't need to make it political, and it's like Steam Powered Giraffe doesn't want to be we're not going to sit here and wax politics at you. It's like none of this is political. It's made to be political, but it's just like,
well, I mean, at this point we can all say that Trump sucks and
our country's broken.
I mean,
and like,
I don't even see how that's political anymore.
It's not.
No,
It's not. No.
Like, we don't even have to talk about.
I think the idea is like... we need to keep reigniting it. Like, it's like I'm never going to want to stop because like if this can't stop the momentum right now. It's like this has probably been boiling for decades upon decades, and like we have it now, and it's like,
and we shouldn't go back to okay. We shouldn't be back to comfortable because that's what got us into this in the first place. And I think so many people feeling so overwhelmed with this. And when we were talking about this a little bit before, it was like, well, this is a big problem, but what can I do? I guess nothing. I guess there's nothing I can do about it. That's a real defeating feeling, number one. Yeah. Like, and we shouldn't be feeling like that because there is things that we can do, and maybe not to attack the problem as a whole, but to attack it on an individual level. I'm like, look around in your areas and to people who are around you and places that you work, and start observing, these little things and see what you can do in those situations to make your own personal change, because those changes grow outwards, and they're a little bit more obtainable. Just like people talk about, your dreams. Maybe your dream is to win an Oscar. It's like, all right, well, not many people can do that, right? So maybe your dream is, a little bit slower. Maybe it's to get a lead role, then it's to get this, and it's to get that. All right, little things that can help you end up to this eventual goal. But to look at a huge problem and say, I'm gonna tackle it, it's like, whoa, there's a lot of things need to happen. And that's too big of a bite to take out of for your brain to even handle.
Yeah, I get that. I've had some really rough days in the last month or two. I'd say since May. Yeah, it's hard. We're only human. Our brains can only take so much. I have been overwhelmed. I've had days where I just can't stop crying, like in the last month or so. But I'm also doing what I can, sitting inside during this pandemic. Sure. It's these two like really, really big cultural things happened at almost the same time, and I think that's compounded the feeling of hopelessness that it's easy to get bogged down in. Of what can I do to help, because there's also this other thing that is endangering. I'm like, what do I do? Do I go outside? Do I
There's a stark contrast where here's these two things. One where we have no choice, we have to solve it, pandemic, and this other one that we just let go for so long and don't do anything about it. And it's like it's that thing of, and for me it's like it's just an overwhelming anger towards not just myself, just for being a part of humans, I guess.
Yeah, like anger, frustration, all the feelings.
Yeah, and we can't do anything about the pandemic, but we can totally do something about the other thing.
I've been doing everything I can, even if I'm not, I'm not blasting it on social media, but it's good that people are blasting it on social media. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, just because I'm not tweeting about it or Instagramming or something doesn't mean that I'm not in the conversation. It's so overwhelming.
It's a lot, and this whole movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, it's a civil rights movement, and it's started from the 60s, and it's continuing, and that's part of it's part of gay rights, it's part of trans rights, it's all of these things that are all combined in this one, and it's like so for so long people have been asking for these things, right? They say, hey, can we just get a basic right? Can I just be with my husband when they're dying? Like, can I have that? Can I please have this basic right that everybody else here has? And for so long, we've listened to other people argue with it with some validity. Like, oh, no, you shouldn't be able to do that because if you marry this man, then the next day a horse. Well, what are you talking about? This doesn't affect you in the least. How are you even part of this argument? The first time the Black Lives Matters movement came out, it was dismantled by one argument. All lives matter, right? Everyone said that, and it was like, well, I guess you're right. I can't really, there's nothing I can say about that, right? But as we as a society, luckily we have a little bit of recall these days where we can say, all right, well, we just went through this, and now we've seen every decision you've made since you've made the argument. And every time it shows me that you don't really care about anyone else's life. You care about your own life. And you're fighting against people who just want a basic human rights. That's all they want. That's all. Why are we even taking the time to listen to these arguments? And that's where we're at right now, is shut it down. All right. I get it. You may think that the coronavirus is a hoax. I get that. All right. But you know what? That's not where it's at. We as a society have decided this one thing. So let's move forward. I'm tired of your arguments. It's like if we're trying to save someone's life, I don't need you coming in and saying, maybe not. Maybe we don't need to do that. Or maybe we don't need to do this. Like, that's why and how.
I don't know why compassion is so hard for human beings, but
right?
It's hard enough, coming from our various backgrounds and like the challenges we may have had growing up in our own little lives, but like there's a point when you grow up and you start realizing that the world isn't going to be the way you might have imagined it, or that, you know, like it's not all what you see in the Disney movies. And like sometimes it takes society well into their 70s, 60s to realize that.
Sure.
And it's never too late to never too late to change. Sorry.
No, I get that.
It's just it's upsetting. It's really upsetting to see my friends, people I care about, like, and feeling powerless, but also knowing that I'm partially responsible, you know, my hereditary and stuff. You know, this has been going on for so long and people just don't understand.
I think there's if we can go back to us all as children, and I don't know how it was for all the rest of you, and I kind of do because we have talked about this before, but let's pretend like we haven't. And when I was a kid, you get fed this stuff in schools, and it's progressive. We're in California. I mean, it's not as progressive as people like to think, I would imagine, but I guess that's if you're contrasting it to something that's less progressive. But you know, you go through school, and you're taught everything's equal. It doesn't matter your skin color. You're all equal. Everyone got it. That's not a problem anymore. Racism doesn't exist. I mean, that's basically what you're told through public school systems.
That's what
and
we
stuff
were
like
told.
that. At least when we grew up.
That's what we were told.
You know, drugs are bad. The police are good. Stuff like that. You know, it's all fed it through the DARE program. Stuff like that. Some good stuff come out of that, I suppose, but also some really bad stuff that you don't know as a
DARE
kid.
program did nothing, but yeah, going on.
But you know what I mean? Like,
Yes,
like
racism
as a kid,
wasn't
you're like,
an issue when we were kids. In other parts, even in the same county, it was. But from our perspective,
I'm saying,
we were told
yeah, our perspective.
no.
That's what I'm saying.
There was this man named Martin Luther King Jr. and once he did this and that, this and all this happened, civil rights movement was over. Everyone was
And we're
equal.
like, cool, okay.
Do you think
Yeah.
no kids going out there being like, my friend's black, my friend's Japanese? You know, like, I guess like if that has relevance, if you're having questions about culture or something, but they're just kids.
I'm gonna put things in perspective. All right. So Ruby Bridges, the first black student to be integrated in America, is in the South or is in, I think it's in America as a whole, is 68 years old, right? So she's definitely still alive. Half of the people you see in Congress and in the Senate are a good 10 years older than her, maybe. Like, they're all in their 70s. Some of them are getting in their late 80s. These people were teenagers when all this stuff happened. Like, they had already developed a whole set of ideologies and thoughts, and a lot of these people are still very much in power. So if you think that just one movement erased everything, you are very much wrong. The people who they fought to get those rights for were still in power. So the next presidency that came through, they tried to do everything they could to eliminate all those things that just happened in ways that were very subtle, you know, and that continues going on because a lot of those people are still like in the Senate, in the Congress. Like, and I think it's so easy to say Martin Luther King was so long ago. This was so long ago, but
it wasn't.
No.
Yes, my dad was born in 1934. 1934. You know, he passed away last year. He was 84, 85. But he lived through that. You know, he lived 30 years of his life without rights, you know, and then another 10 years where he didn't have the right to marry my mother. You know, it's like these people have lived through all these things. The people who have lived with zero rights, and all these people who have lived with all those same rights, and those people are still alive, and they're still making major decisions. And people just are very oblivious to that fact, and I think that needs to be stated. Is that
stop treating it as ancient history that we're done with,
and even people because as a kid you don't have the grasp of time. You thought that happened a long time ago. Everything's solved, whatever,
You're immediately
back,
wrong. As you grow up, especially like
exactly.
You can live in ignorance of it for our entire lives is like fucking sorry. Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
Whatever. We're obviously gonna swear on this one.
Yeah.
It's just it's not the individual's fault until you choose to start ignoring it.
Exactly.
You can't be complacent, and you need to understand you can't be complacent anymore. Everyone can't be complacent. You have to you have to look at the hard truths and start asking these questions like, should we defund the police? You know, should like reparations be a thing now? You know, should like all these things like we should
sure.
do something about this, right?
And
Yeah,
educating yourself about it. You know, it's like don't take people's words for it. Like look into it. Like read about it. Read about what your local government is doing. Read about what your city is doing. Look at that budget where you pay your taxes. Where's your money going? Like if you're not informed on the situation, number one, you're not helping yourself and you're not helping anyone else around you. But these are all things that are very much available to us on a daily basis, and we can, you can Google them. There's lots of books, and there's lots of people in your local neighborhood who have been talking about this stuff for a long time and have been thinking about it. And those are the people that you need to go to. Your local, African American history teacher. They're at all your schools. There's activists out there who are very knowledgeable about this stuff and very knowledgeable about what you need to do to make some sort of changes. So those people are good people to talk to. They're great resources.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we're kind of saying how we're feeling about all this and whatnot.
It's hard not
and
to.
we know the audience is probably whoever's watching or listening is, we're all kind of cut from the same cloth a little bit, but it's okay if you're one of those people who feels like you just recently saw the light of
totally.
this. I don't mean it for lack of a better word.
There's we all have that feeling. Us versus them, and that's what the politicizing of everything does. It's like it can't be Republicans and Democrats because it has nothing to do with that. They want it to be about that. But it's not. It's like this is just human rights, and it across the board, like all of this stuff is like. It's because 65 is not that old. 65 is not that old.
Super normalized to have a change of heart or change your mind on something. Like that's okay.
Why is
when
it
you
that
learn, when you gain knowledge, you change as a person.
Why is a generation that grew up seeing seeing this? Why are they the ones that are the most resistive?
It's a lot of pride, How do you teach someone to unlearn that pride and make them see that it's okay to own up to mistakes and
Well, let's not pretend everyone at Woodstock was a progressive person. You know what I mean? Like I have that idea.
I always
in
think
our
about
heads.
that. Like how many hippies do I know who just
they're still
out
there doing
it was
the
summer of love, and they consider themselves
the people
hippie for that one summer.
Yeah, but that same summer of love was the civil rights movement. Like that was one of the bloodiest times in African American history, period. And another thing, what you'll never see, you see lots of pictures of color of Woodstock, right? Lots of pictures of color of the Summer of Love. You will never ever see a colorized picture of the civil rights movement. They're consistently in black and white because they consistently want to separate your mind from what it actually was. If these things happened at the same time, how could they possibly have happened at the same time, right? And I can't fathom that. It seems like it was 10 years before, and Woodstock was how we all came together. It's very much not true. During this time, that's when the hoses were coming out. Those are when the dogs were coming out, and all that stuff was going on with Martin Luther King right down in Alabama and in the South, And at the same time, we're over in San Francisco putting flowers on people and saying that we're all one and we're all love. And that's great, but does that message really go out to everybody, or was it just because you felt good? Do you really love these people? Do you really want to help them? Because that's what it's about. It's not about what you wear and what you say. It's about what you do. Yeah. How are you helping this person right next to you?
No one told them, any of the people who basically spread that stuff you were going to be tested later on in life.
Yeah.
I know. I'm putting a little humor to that. Of course, it's hard to blame an entire generation of people.
It's the idea that just needs to be cultivated. It's not a bad idea. It's like
it's a great idea, but how do you implement it?
I never thought of the colorized photos versus the black and white photos until you just said that, and I literally just my body just felt cold when you said that. I never thought of that. It's sinister.
It's tough, and I think this is important to remember as I'm looking at my older generation as well, and I've been going to a lot of meetings with people I've admired and thought about for a long time. Is that these people have all been talking about this, and a lot of have known about it. That we've had classes about it, and I think for so long people have just been saying that's not really going on. no, it's not. I mean, I know you say it, but it's not really going on. And now, we're, at the beginning of June, if you would have told me that Juneteenth was be as big as it was, I would have laughed in your face. But the fact that it was is amazing, but it's also very disheartening. It's like you heard us. You heard us the whole time, and you like Band-Aid brand came out with a black Band-Aid like that. It's like you've heard us for so long, and you've just said no, nah, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. And now all of a sudden that it's not fine, it's like, okay, well, like how can I help you? How can I do this basic thing that and that's got to be. It's disheartening for me, and I can't imagine people who are in their 60s, 70s who have been doing it for so long and just like, wow, they just.
And that most you can hope for is these token little things. I mean, but that's hopefully where it starts. But that's I can't even imagine.
And there's people out there who they're still from that generation, and they're out there doing the protests, and they haven't stopped, and they are not blind to it and whatnot. And me a few months ago would have looked at it and say, oh, that's really good, but like. I'm the definition of complacent. I mean, I don't like to make waves. I wanted to get through school. I don't even have many friends. You know what I mean? Like, it's as much of not being a part of the world as possible that's what I learned growing up, because our family life sucked, and I was just like, and everyone else sucked. But
all this is it's just more of the same. Like the world is. It's bad. It's like
all I can say is
all our constructs of society are lies, and everything is false, and like we can't be complacent. It's like I know that sounds like being radical or something, but it's not. It's not.
I know.
Because we can all say like, I don't like people. I don't like them, and it is part of this, but it's also just my own personal experiences. But I just in general like I can dislike people and just want to be alone. Because for my own damages,
sure.
but still think the world needs to be better.
Sure.
It feels frustrating to me because I'm like I know this is it's paltry in comparison, but I'm just like I'm not going to be comfortable in my alone time until the rest of the world can be happy. You know what I mean? I'm gonna feel guilty for wanting to separate myself, and I don't want to anymore.
I want to touch on that real quick. I'm gonna grab some guys here with a piano. I'm gonna bring it in. I'll be back.
Okay, we'll keep that thought in mind.
I know if you're listening to this and you're thinking like, I've heard so much of this, like, you gotta hear more of it.
Yeah.
After the first week, it started feeling like it was fizzling out, and it felt kind of bad.
I did not
feeling
like that feeling. No,
it has to keep. It has to keep. You gotta remember we're in a pandemic. You gotta remember that we're in the middle of a civil rights explosion.
We could have done the Bennettarium earlier. I mean, we probably when the fires were hot when it first happened. But we were like, no, let's save it till the end of the month.
But at the same time, this conversation is always going to be relevant, and there's no deadline to talk about it.
We try to make sort of topical political issues not the focus, and we're telling you, and we're coming out here and saying this is important, and obviously one of our members is black, so like he's here to give you the benefit.
Perspective on
this.
Yeah.
You don't have... Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No. I was just gonna say like I really had a tough time, when we did the bare minimum as a company, and showed our empathy for it. I had a really hard time reading the comments of people saying like, I'm unsubscribing. I can't believe that you would do this, because I was like, look at our band members. How could you be so detached from humanity to say that you're disappointed in us for you saying the bare minimum of what we could say is that we feel empathy and we stand with the movement. Like how could you possibly say you're disappointed in our stance on that, like as human beings?
I know, and I know Brian's. I mean, he's not here right now, but he's going to touch back on that whatever we were talking about. But it's one of those like the time to educate those people is gone. It's over. Like I mean, it's
you got to get on board.
Like I feel like as a company, we're always supposed to be trying to make sure everyone you should feel comfortable coming along with the rest of the society progressively.
Yeah, but like if we're here and we're making a stand, like You got. We don't care about losing fans to this. We do not care in the slightest.
Yeah.
Like, go away.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like if you have any problem with the
boo-hoo,
band
you're
supporting Black
unsubscribing?
Lives Matters,
Like-
you got your priorities totally
But
messed
also
up.
Detached, completely detached
Yeah.
from humanity. That's how I feel about them.
Brian,
God,
you had
good riddance.
something to say?
Yeah.
It's not our job to entertain the people who don't want to love us. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And I was talking about this with the theaters, during the whole gay rights thing. All those people who were in the audience had very different views compared to those people who were on the stage who were entertaining them and taking them away from those values. So many times we in these arguments, like, oh, I don't even want to think about it anymore. Can I just go away and not think about it? I'll go to the theater. It's like, the theater is all gay people. You know, it's like, I don't want to think about Black Lives Matter. I want to watch football. Like, football's all black people. It's all like, those people can't walk away from those arguments, right?
Yeah.
So that's where we at. Like,
It starts with compassion, right? It's got to be compassion. It's
Yeah. And we don't need to entertain anybody. We don't need to take anyone's minds away that don't want to be a part of that. But I am more than happy to take away the troubles of somebody who's been fighting that same battle, their whole lives, and who wants to continue that. I'm 1,010% up for that kind of stuff.
And if you want to get educated, like there can't be any shame in that. Like I'm saying, I've said in a recent video, it's like if you are part of the Ku Klux Klan, you get a right to turn your life around, because that's all we can hope for at this point.
True.
We can't. It's great that we can get the new generation, but there has to be hope for even the most evil people that we can think of. And I know that seems, but that's where it goes. You have to be compassionate to everyone. And obviously people are angry and stuff, but like they have to be able. We want them to get away from that. We want them to.
The thing is the majority of people we have to believe are good. The problem is we're all sheep to a degree.
I mean,
we want to be comfortable, and the people that are making the problem worse are not necessarily. I mean, they are the people in power who are doing all the terrible stuff, and everyone following along with it. But the people who are complacent in it it's a problem, because without everyone going for the same direction, we're not going to get there, like, so that's why it's more important that everyone's on board with supporting things that should be obvious, because if you're complacent, then like it's actually hurting it more than some old person's up there with backwards views. Totally. I mean, it's all
this should have happened so long ago. It's like
true.
And there's going to be so much more to fight and stuff. It's like you owe it to yourself to get on the right side of history, like now.
And we don't actually know who we're talking to. I mean, everyone listening probably could be. Oh yeah, obviously, all this is obvious.
I mean, I know
it's 2020. The
That's
resources are
our
there.
very existence is a fight against this, and I think that I bring that up a lot with people in my life. Is like that's like us playing on say. I mean, we can go through the YouTube comments and we can point out all the bad, all the bad that's doing out, and that's cool. Like, good. I'm glad, and unfortunately, our very presence is going to invite that hatred from other people. But you know what? We can take it with stride, and we can bring a little love to the people who want to bring love to us as well. And I think that's an important role to have in this.
And just to double down on that, we're not talking just about like, we came out saying everything Black Lives matters basically with the company, but also Brian's talking about like comments just for years of anything. I mean, just everything. Like
this is stuff that we talk about behind the scenes, and we're like just blown away. Like they're simultaneously funny and horrifying.
Well, that's why I was like, I was almost amused by how many people, when we put up the Black Lives Matter post, said, "That's it, I'm done. I'm not okay with this," because I was like, "Wait,
well, there's a
how
lot
have
of
you
this...
been a fan for the last like 10 years, and this is what you have a problem with?" Like, I don't know. You know, it was kind of
if-
like horrifying.
as
It's
if,
like, oh, this
you
is
know what? I'll
racism
be
is where they draw
okay.
the line.
You can change your logo to be a rainbow, but
Yeah.
you know, black people.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm out.
It was.
You're saying that you don't like white people?
My mind
Well,
was
that's
just
it.
boggled. Like I couldn't. It
That's how I
was. It was
imagined it.
kind of horrifying. Like, oh, this is what you have a problem with.
Yeah.
Like everyone should have a problem with it.
I
but
really want to.
Yeah.
I really want to kind of condemn a few of our fans. I know I don't. You can't use "All Lives Matter" because, as Brian said, that's what shut it down, and that's what continues to try to shut it down. It's complacency. It steals the dialogue away from the people who are trying to be heard.
Also, it shows to me one thing is that you have put zero effort into trying to understand what this is being said. If you think that it's this, all right, you can think whatever you want, but what do you know? What have you looked into? Stop taking opinions from everyone else and start looking into things for yourself. That's the only way we're going to get through this. Like, you have to have solid footing of what you know. And if you think that Black Lives Matter is taking away from other people or this or like are saying that nobody else matters, then you are wrong. That's not what they're saying. And if you need me to explain it to you personally, you can DM me, you can send me an email, I'll explain it to you, you know.
What's the most ridiculous thing about Star Trek? Is it flying in space? Is it visiting other worlds? No, it's that the entire planet Earth is able to get along and there's no racism or
Right?
anything in that. Well, I mean, that's the idea with the original series, but
Yeah.
obviously that's the most ridiculous thing. And I always think about the future is like, that's the goal. And it never has been different than that.
Yeah.
It's been, that's where we're getting to, right? Like, but we ain't, and we're going backwards.
One Little Show of Faith by Gene Roddenberry. Like, my Star Trek's my dad's favorite show. You know, my dad's born in 1935, Louisiana, New Orleans, black man. Star Trek was his favorite show. Specifically for that reason. It's like, for the first time in forever, there was a black person on a TV show that it wasn't focused on her race, and it wasn't focused on some sort of crazy trauma that she did. She was just in the future and she lived her life, and that was it. Like, and that right there is all that people ask for, is like that we're not just a stereotype, you're not just a statistic, you're not just this one piece of history that everyone wants to keep repeating and throwing in your face over and over again. You look at every Oscar winner for the past forever, it's always a slave movie. Beat up, you got raped, whatever it might be, it's trauma. Like, stop! I'm doing movies anymore. Like, you watching things about me having trauma is not fun. That's not fun for me. It's not fun for you. Like, we can have stories and we can have moments with people about humanity, you know, and it just happens to be that person is trans, or that person is gay, or that person is a certain race. It doesn't have to be about those specific things. These people deal with human problems that are universal, and the more that we understand that, the more we understand that we're the same. We're all the same, and that's
and it might seem small compared to, you know, bigger companies and stuff, but as Steam Powered Giraffe, the biggest thing as someone who's an introvert, like to a big degree, when Steam Powered Giraffe has definitely made me come out of my shell because I have to to do it, is we see so many walks of life and we interact, and we don't tour as much as other bands, but we've gone to other places and we've seen the stereotypical stuff of like going to, you know, not outside of California. We've seen the different cities. We've seen, and we have, there's nothing but good things to say about everywhere, but you can also see where it's like, oh yeah, I guess there are people over here that kind of hate everything. You know what I mean? Like, we see the similarities more than the rest. But to turn a blind eye to all that other stuff just feels so
it's trite
crappy
but true.
right
But
now.
like, but we are all the same, and we have a lot more in common than we have not in common when it comes down to it. With everyone, I mean, language barriers aside, I mean, you know, like, we're all the same. If you stop giving so much, I don't know, credit to like religion and race and like gender, even, like, I know some of these might be stretches for people depending on how woke you are, but like at a very minimum, you should look at a human being and see that they have a soul, they have an identity. You know, they grew up, they were a child. Like, if you can't look at someone and see the child, like, what is wrong with you? Like,
And right now we have the power as individuals to make that kind of change. And it's overwhelming, and it's frustrating, and it's uncomfortable, and you have to put in a lot of work, and you have to do a lot of stuff that you don't really want to do. But much like my good friend Frodo Baggins, when the ring was thrust upon him, he says, "Gandalf, what? I wish the ring had never come to me. Gandalf, please, no, I wish it." And what does Gandalf say? He says, "Man, so does everyone who came in these times. Like, nobody wants this, but what are you going to do with it? You have
Tough
it.
shit, Frodo.
You have it. Tough, Frodo. Like, you better find yourself a Sam. You better find yourself somebody who can carry you through it. But like it's our duty. It's our duty as humans to stand up for other humans. All right, there's too many bullies out there with loud voices trying to tell you that this is right and this feels good and this is freedom. This is freedom. Just yell at them. Ah! It's like, yo, and they're toting around the American flag like they know what that means. They've never fought for the rights. They've never fought for anything. They're out there bullying people like that's what that flag stands for. That's not what that flag stands for. It stands for the people who rose up and stood for something that meant something to them. So,
if we could go back to being kids again, let's take us back there. With being an ignorant kid and thinking that everything is like perfectly fine, because obviously, we went to school in El Cajon, so definitely more Hispanics and white people.
Sure.
But
we
had others, of course.
In
definitely.
terms of growing up, that was a very nice little area. It wasn't,
even though El Cajon gets a bad rap and stuff, I suppose.
Yeah, it's the suburbs. Let's not. It's pretty much a suburb.
Yeah.
So in elementary schools where I'm going back to, like, I have always, for whatever reason, I always felt very weird about saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and this might be a weird offshoot from what we're talking about, but like, and the reason as a kid is like, is because like, well, that doesn't mean anything to me, like, and then you're learning about the history but you can't apply that to real life.
For sure.
And that could be just from me growing up in a broken family and stuff and seeing all that stuff. But in hindsight, it's like, well, little kid me didn't know what the right reason to not have some passion for the flag or whatever for your country you live at. But me now can look back on it and say, wow, there's so many other things that kids don't know about. I mean, think about the playground games and riddles and all that stuff that happens only on a playground. Even this is before the internet. I mean, we did start having the internet when I was in elementary school, but it was the later end of it.
It was universal throughout all the playgrounds. Everyone had the same things.
Yeah,
and the same sushi. Like, how did that happen?
But even I can remember things that were entirely based on race, and it was racist, and it wasn't, and you can't blame the kids for literally retelling stuff that their family life is telling them, because where did they get this information? Other kids, and where did those kids get it? You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those, like, when I looked into the face of another kid to see the reaction of what other people were saying to them, and it was based on race, I didn't understand it then, but I was like, I don't know if they're happy about this or not. You know what I mean?
Well, that's great perspective, because most people don't think about that. They just think this is really funny to me. So,
right.
I mean, we grew up privileged, but we were picked on a lot. So there was definitely like, if you saw someone else getting picked on, quote unquote, but it was for laughs. It's fine. It's okay. So and that's what you're trying to learn. You're like, where's the limit of like what people, and I think Bunny and I, we were just very ignorant
stuff like
as
that, like
kids.
Racist children's limericks or whatever you want to call it. Like, all that stuff is it just keeps the narrative of it's okay to spit on use these stereotypes, and we really shouldn't be looking at people like that at all. I mean, that's just no brainer. But like,
it's so weird that we can point out that stuff. Everyone can. I mean, if you've had any interaction with anyone as a kid of a different race, not yourself, but maybe, I mean, I have so many memories of that, of other people doing that stuff as kids, and it would be, I'm not going to point out any of the stuff because it doesn't help anyone, but there's like, it's like, it's jokes that would be like offensive to anyone if you took out race, but then it's like, they're predisposed to that.
But this is shit that you hear from your parents. Sorry,
because people are uncreative. At the end of the day, people are pretty uncreative and pretty unfunny. And I mean, no joke, man. This is like all those jokes are like from one person, and it's like everyone heard it and said, "Oh, that's hilarious. Mexicans like tacos, or whatever it might be. Like, now, how many people can I tell this joke about tacos and Mexicans? Like, how many people can I explain this one joke that I heard from this one basic person, because I have nothing else to bring to the table? Like, this is what I have. Like, I've got this one thing. Like, I was born into it, and like I live in it, so it's great. I remember the first time I heard black jokes. They laid so many black jokes, like right in a row. I was like, oh, a black joke, cool, let's hear it. And then it was like, oh, no dad. They did this. It's a drug addict. It's this, and none of these things applied to me. I had a dad. I lived a pretty good life growing up. I didn't understand the joke. But at the end of it, I remember him saying this: "You want to hear a joke about a white person? There are none." And then he left, and I was like, "Oh, all right." And he was right, because I was like, I can't even fathom. I can't even fathom, because there was no stereotypes. There's no stereotypes, and now there kind of is, and people are getting, and like Susan, oh my, and people get so upset at that. It's like, what?
Or Karen.
Or you can't assume that I'm racist because of this and this and this. Well, it's like, yeah, you're right. I shouldn't assume that, right? I shouldn't assume all these basic, large things about an individual, right? Because the majority of these people might act this way. It's wrong of me to assume that, correct? Right? So that's
Yeah.
where we're at. So the next time someone brings up Chicago or black on black violence to you, tell them that. Do I live in Chicago? Am I hurting another black person? Like, what does Chicago have to do with me over here in San Diego? Yo, how does that affect anything? And how is that the argument that keeps on dissuading people year after year after year after year after year? Where does that study come from? Look into those numbers. Did you ever look into them? You just assuming that? You just passing on the information because it sounds good to you? Because that's how we get in these places right now. It
It's
sounded
almost like
it felt good to me, and now it's fact, and now it's in your face. So do what you will,
That's like those statistics that people like to throw around on Twitter and all that is like the adult version of playground limericks.
Yeah, right?
Where did you hear that? What's the source?
Black on prime or whatever it might be. It's like it's the same thing. You marry a man, next tomorrow's a horse. Like, what are you talking
That's actually
about?
an actual quote, I believe. It's it's not the day to bring up like trans and LGBT issues. It will be, but like
sure is though. Every day
it's
is
all
for me.
connected.
Yeah, it all connected.
Because it's always you come down to the same arguments, and like you can't listen to the arguments because they're just trying to diffuse the situation.
Right.
Like it's
listen to the person who's asking for help and try to figure out why they're asking for help and what you can do to help them.
And they should also know that no one wants to be told that their problems are make believe.
For sure.
Yeah.
exactly
Especially when there's tons of other people behind them that are saying the same thing. Like
it's always about people scream, "Oh, it's infringing on my rights by you being able to go in the bathroom," or
How?
or the color of your skin and your culture affects me. And
look,
and all
I
these-
had a roommate. I had a roommate who, in my less tactful years, I just blew up on when he said, "Oh, I don't have a problem with gay people, but I just don't think they should get married." That's he had that whole rhetoric with, man and woman, sacred bond. I'm like, to who? To the religion I don't practice? How does that fit into my life? Like, I got angry just being a privileged white straight male. I was like, what the like, you can't bring religion into that for me because I hate religion.
I heard
we used to work for that
yeah.
guy. We used to work with that guy. Not anymore though.
But to be fair, that's not the reason why, and I feel bad for like, wait, can't I use those reasons as reasons not to work with people?
Yeah, you could.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a
totally
really
could.
good tweet I just saw the other day. I don't remember the source, but it was something like tradition is just peer pressure from dead people.
Yeah.
So dumb. And if you keep tracing back history,
Tradition,
all
quote
of it's
unquote.
all of
It
it's
is.
bull.
Yeah, it's
all
all
of it.
bull.
Like
Yeah.
just a bunch of white people. Sorry, I don't like bringing race into this. But it's
Hey.
about race.
Yeah.
Hey, learn your history. Learn
Yeah.
your history. Don't let somebody
We're
else tell you
horrible.
what it is.
It's awful.
Well,
The only thing that you need to do right now, everyone listening, is to be aware, and that's like the most powerful thing you can do. Then you can try to do something about it. Educate yourself.
Yeah, I never want to feel like I'm done learning or that I'm, quote unquote woke enough. Like,
there's a frustration with it all. Like the
I mean,
frustration
like you were
of
talking about, like, this isn't the day to talk about this, is like, yeah, I have dealt with some really shitty stuff in my life just from being a woman.
Yeah.
But as a white woman, I'm always very aware of intersectional feminism and, how can I continue to educate myself. And it never, if you're like me and you feel in a position of like, oh, well, I grew up in a very progressive household. I never learned, hateful things. And like I've had, when Prop 8 was a big deal in California in 2008, I had arguments with people, arguing why it was wrong of them to just, same things David was just saying. I had arguments with people who wanted to say, well, it's just the way it is. Like, I just don't think it's right. And, as someone who's always felt like I'm progressive and arguing the right side of things, like, I don't feel like it's enough. Like, I don't know, just for me personally, like, and if you feel similar to me, like, don't ever feel like you're educated enough.
Sure.
Always educate yourself more and listen to people around you who don't have the same life experiences as you.
You should have learned so much in this month. You should have. Like, if you hadn't.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, like it's okay to have been ignorant and start.
I've never felt ignorant, and I've been learning something new.
I mean,
every day.
for the selfish part of me, I mean, I'm sure everyone else kind of feels this too. It's the anger at yourself for being complacent. And then there's the frustration of, well, isn't the world supposed to be equal? And then you're like, but I know it's not because I've known my whole damn life. So it's that frustration of like, cool, so now I have to go do something about it. You know what I mean?
So what can people do, Brian, to sort of, be allies and educate themselves?
Well, I think that's number one is go find somebody who has studied this. And check your own privileges. And I don't mean we talk about white privilege, we talk about whatever it is. I have privileges as a individual that a lot of people don't have. I grew up in a family with two very loving people around me and who supported me throughout my entire life. I went to a private school growing up. There's lots of things that I have. So I'm a man, and that right there is a privilege. So how can I use my privileges to help those people who don't have those same privileges, right? If I'm in a room and I'm speaking and I hear a woman speak up and I know that room is not going to listen to her, then how can I actively say, hey, she's got a good idea. She's been raising her hand. She's been trying to bring it up this whole time and y'all keep talking over her. I got a big voice. That's a privilege of mine. I'm very loud. I could use that privilege to help other people. And that's what it's about. And I think I've said it a couple times now, but that's at the end of the day is when people are asking for help, listen to them, try to figure out why they need help, and then try to figure out what you can do. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, what can I do to help this movement? And I think that the answers are right in front of you, and they always have been. Coming to somebody who's part of the movement or looks like they might be part of the movement is not really fair because we also don't have the answers. I just have perspective. That's the biggest thing that I have right now is perspective. Everything else, I'm Googling. I don't know when the march is going to happen. Nobody told me. I had to Google it, and you can come to me because I put in the legwork. But if you really care about something, you have to put in the legwork yourself. And you have to want to educate yourself. And once you've done that, then you can start educating other people. And that's where it's at, man. How can we start educating people? We should want that from the get-go. You should look at your own budget. Say where's education on this budget? Like, how do we keep defunding this thing? How do we not have shop class or dance class or this or that? The more we know, the more we're able to fight against the not knowing, and the not knowing is what keeps us confused and what keeps us at ends.
Yeah, very sound advice. Y'all can rest assured, those watching, listening, that Steampowered Giraffe is going to keep cultivating progressiveness and like just good nature. That's what our band's about, is taking in your battered and bruised, like, and saying like you're worth something, like Each one of our songs is all being a couple of outcasts and then bringing in all this love and energy to basically repair ourselves and other people, you know? Like it's Steampowered Giraffe has always been about just loving other people and
We
caring
could have
about
been an
other
angry
people.
metal band and just like
Yeah.
put all our energy, our creative
So,
and,
like-
and emotional stuff into that, but we didn't.
Yeah.
So
We
look at our
didn't. We tried to
community and
be
how
good.
supportive they are and like how diverse and how it could feel safe and like wouldn't it be great if the rest of the world where you almost forgot for a second that there were problems out there, you know?
How do we
That's-
continue building each other up?
So remember that it's also a privilege to be a part of our communities and stuff that actually, especially for me, like, you know, being in the LGBT community, it makes me forget that that if I go out those doors, it's a whole nother world, you know? Like, so like, you know, be aware and educate others and be on the right side of history, please, because you don't want to be that old person where all your kids, your grandchildren are like, why do you hate people?
Grandpa, why do you hate everyone?
Why
It
do you
hasn't-
hate my
it hasn't-
friend just because of the color of their skin? Or
It
what
hasn't
do they
it hasn't
choose
been
to-
long enough, and that's the frustrating part. It's like we want it to have already be done with and everything, but it ain't. So
Work's not done.
the work's not done, and
Yeah.
and it would be great because we have technology. We were able to stay in the know a lot. I mean, with every negative thing that comes with the internet and technology, there's a lot of positive things we can get out of it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
being in the know is like we can know. I can know that the bank's burning down the street, which it was because that's where we live. You know, I mean, it's not no. We live in La Mesa, so and that's when that stuff was happening. It was like cool. This is our city will be known for this one little.
It was like
this
La Mesa
one
was like
building.
number 3 on Twitter that night. It was insane because it's like it's a small sub city of San Diego. Like it's
And like everyone uses that technology for a similar way for their own personal gains, which is great, you know. But there's also this too that you can also, you know, stay up on. And there's tons of people doing the legwork that you can if you're keeping the conversation going. That's the bare minimum. That's all. That's
Yeah.
right. There's nothing.
keep the conversation going.
Yeah. And when the internet exists, we have no reason not to be educated. There are so many resources. Like the internet.
Yeah.
True.
Like
Yeah. Challenge yourself. Learn.
it's 2020. There's no excuse. Educate yourself.
So do you think? Do
live
you
long
think
and
this is going
prosper.
to be? Do you think? So you think these are all problems that we're going to solve in the next decade, or are these things that we're going to get solved with our children's children?
You know what? You know what? Here's the thing: is like there is no time for your children's children no more. Like this is a now thing. You feel the movement right now, and feel how that money is shifting. And when you look at movements, the biggest thing that's going to be a wall is that money. And right now, with all the sponsors kind of supporting it, it's a good time to say, all right, well, who doesn't support it, and how can I affect them that way? You know.
And also maybe defund the police. And I'm just saying that. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm just saying. People say that's radical.
No,
It's not
hey,
radical.
yeah.
it's
Not radical.
Well, if we put a little more budget into social workers, into mental health care, into there's so many
Exactly.
things that
Exactly.
we force
Yeah, yeah.
we force them to. And
Every
that's-
excuse you can throw about why we have jails, why we have a prison system, why we have it's like there's gonna be the top, you know, the people who are irredeemable, the mass murderers and stuff. You know, there's always gonna be that. But then there's just an absorbent amount of people who just were not given the right opportunity or the education, and they're just products of their environment. And it's not fair that they get to rot and be thrown into a cycle of a system that wants them in there. And defund the police, get rid of private prisons. California's already
Yeah.
taken steps.
The
A
private
lot of other
prison
states,
thing
like
is,
And it's-
you need to get rid of
infuriating.
prisons, need to get rid of the police. It makes perfect sense that we should be rehabilitating the mentally ill and trying to fix this system that we've built for
Invest,
marginalized
also-
peoples.
invest
you know,
back
give-
into our community. You know, that's what it's
Yeah.
about. Invest.
Take away, you know, police officer. People say get rid of police. I'm like, well, the idea is that don't give them the jobs that they're not there to do in the first place.
Exactly.
You know?
They're not mental health
Exactly.
professionals. They're
Yeah.
not. They shouldn't be
They're
having
not-
guns. They shouldn't have guns. Doesn't. People always bring up like, well, if someone starts shooting, then you bring in the guys with the guns. When,
Yeah.
like, what are you gonna do?
True.
Bring in the National Guard at that point. Bring in the military. Like at least. Yeah. Anyways, I say that because I want you to think about it. Not necessarily that it's the solution. You
It's
should
important.
think. You should think into these extremes, or think about things you're like, oh, all lives matter. I'm not going to say Black Lives Matter. Well, here we just told you why. So now start thinking about them. Start thinking about the
That
things.
the
you
whole
said.
all forests matter kind of thing. Like,
Oh, yeah.
save the rainforest, but all forests matter.
The-
They're
yeah, I
like,
think
why would
that's
you say that?
paraphrase-
We're talking about the rainforest.
Right. People who say save the rainforests aren't saying F all the other forests. Like,
No, yeah.
all lives not matter is not an argument. Shut
So,
up.
so the next time someone says #BLM or trans lives matter or anything, maybe don't roll your eyes.
Here's what you could say. You could put it in the great words of famous Black author Alexander Dumas: "All for one and one for all." That's where we're at right now. So if you're on the other side, then I'll see you later. But
I mean, it's
y'all,
great. Over
y'all gonna have to ride against me, my whole Asian community, all my gay community, the transgender community. You're gonna have to ride with the Mexican community. You're gonna have to ride with my Sikh community. You're gonna have to ride with my Muslim community, because we all together right now. So
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
let's roll.
So we're still coming out with music, if anyone was wondering. We're still doing that stuff. I mean,
Okay, just whatever we create after this album is going to be heavily influenced by the state of the world right now. Like, I don't think Steam Powered Giraffe could ever be the same after
Music
this.
always has been. That's the other
Yeah.
argument, of like, just shut up and entertain me. I don't listen to music to be political. It's like, well, a song doesn't have to be outright political to be
No.
the product of the society we're stuck in. Like that. How do you even listen to music then if you have a problem with it talking about the state of the world?
I wonder
don't
how
know,
it's going to
you know?
affect the last couple songs on the album. Like, I'm sure it's already.
we kind
had
of
an
lucked out.
effect a little
They're
bit.
they're kind of. I mean, there's relevance in a.
Yeah.
Well, it
totally.
doesn't have to
Not
be
in an.
relevant. It'll still have impacted you, and
They're relevant enough. I think. I mean, they're not. They weren't written. I suppose with this stuff happening in the world, but like. It's not like this stuff went away.
And it's not like
Yeah.
not like we don't talk. We haven't been talking about this stuff for a long time, and that's what I was talking about. Our very existence, every song that we've ever written, our words have been saying this. And if you haven't clued in on them, that's okay. But now take a look and see what those words actually mean and what they could mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, thanks everyone for doing a
totally.
extra long Bennettarium. I'm sure there's tons of stuff we have more to say on the topic, but
We could go forever.
Yeah.
there's only so much we can bring up in one day. I hope everyone out there is staying safe and keeping on.
And keep the conversation going.
yeah.
Yeah.
More importantly,
We'll have more events for you, more live events we're planning. In addition to the music that's coming out, we want to keep you guys entertained. Look forward to radio adventures in the near future. I know we've been saying that for a while, but it has been quite a couple of months.
and yeah, we'll resume doing some more social media stuff on there. We there was no way that we were going to post during when all this stuff was happening and take away any amount of.
Yeah, we had that conversation.
Yeah.
I think we just wanted to put a little pause on, art prompts and all that for a while.
But I mean, we'll post some more fun stuff that isn't like,
Yeah.
I mean, you can look at our social media feed and figure out what we thought was more important to post. So, but going forward, we're definitely going to continue to post things that we find relevant to keep the conversation going.
Yeah.
For sure. Cool.
Okay. Who wants to start this exit song?
It was good seeing you all again, and we don't get to see
Yeah,
each
I
other
know,
that much.
same.
Yeah, especially you and Chelsea, Camille. It's great. to see you.
Brian and I are our second fiddle. We're
No,
chopped liver.
I mean,
I'm
I
just
see you
kidding.
guys more, but it's I miss you guys.
Yeah, you
it's
do a
real.
lot of chopped liver.
It's been a
Yeah,
while.
it's great to see you, and it's great to hear your voices and
I
be with
know.
like minds and people I care about. It's
Yeah.
great. Ryan, you want to start it, and then we'll just pass it off to David and then me in that order.
Okay.
It was a
Good luck.
podcast from Steam Powered Giraffe. It was the
Bennettarium. Oh boy. I don't know if that's the right part.
Yeah, and then keep going. Oh wait, no, then I do the middle
Yeah.
part. Fine. We talked about some serious issues. I hope you'll all mull over on the.
Bennettarium.
And then David ends.
Oh
it,
boy.
Right?
And then you finish it.
Finish it.
Bennettarium, and we'll see you in 2 months.
Yoo-hoo! Good
We
luck,
love you guys.
team.
Thanks for continuing to
I
support
think
us.
next
and-
time, next time we do a Bennettarium, I believe you'll all have 2 new SPG songs.
We will, because they're coming out in
Yeah.
So
July.
yeah.
Something to look forward to.
Beautiful.
Mwah.
Love y'all. Peace.
Stay awesome.
Bye.